where to go, the right place. Exodus chapter 10. Like I said, while you're finding that, I've just got some statements, some questions I want to get us to thinking before we jump into this verse. Has there ever been someone that just stood in your way and of doing what God has called you to do? Have you ever just, it could be physically, it could be mentally, it could be spiritually, but is there just ever just been like somebody was just right in your way of doing what God has called you to do? What we are learning and been learning is God has called us out from among the world to worship Him. In the Exodus that we've been looking at with Moses, he is calling the people of Israel out of Egypt, saying, come worship me. Get out of Egypt and come worship me. And God calls us out from among the world to worship Him and serve Him. I.e., that's why we're here like this and where we are. It is to separate us out and to be a different people, be a peculiar people. The world out there that doesn't understand church, they look at us and go, they're weird. Why did they go do that? And that it's true, but that is what God is calling us out to do this, to find strength in Him, to be different people, to find a place to be alone with God. So has there ever been someone or something that stood in your way of doing that, of serving God? An even bigger question, is there a purpose for not letting you go? Is there a purpose for the individual, the job, the government? Is there a purpose behind them not letting us go worship and serve God? Is there a reason that even God could be the one holding us back? Whew, boy, that one's a tough one, isn't it? Is there a reason that even God could be the one holding us back from worshiping and serving Him? Why did we have the plague of COVID-19? That hindered us from coming out from among the world and worshiping, didn't it, for a long time? A lot of churches are still not meeting. Why do we have the plague of bad weather that kept us away this past week? The plague of no electricity or no water. Why are God's children that are trying to serve Him being stopped? Really, we have to think about these questions. Why, when the world, would God allow last week to have happened and us not been able to come together? These things have got to roll in our mind. Wouldn't you want us to worship you? Why did you let that happen? Why is the modern day Pharaoh stopping some of the people of God from worshiping and serving him? I kind of shared with y'all, if y'all watched the video last week, and if you didn't, I shared with you that you may have been following the California things, that when COVID hit, California shut down churches and said, no, you cannot go, no, you cannot go, no, you cannot go. Kind of like the Pharaoh saying, no, you cannot go worship. That was what Pharaoh was doing to Israel, saying, no, you cannot go. And that's what was happening in our own nation. California was telling the churches, no, you can't go. Well, they finally won in battle in court, I think is what it was. But then they came up with a stipulation. Oh, you can go worship, or you can go to church, but don't worship. Don't sing out. Because if you sing out, well, then that's spreading COVID. So it sounded again like Pharaoh. Oh, okay, well, I'll let you go. I'll let you do it, but do it here. Don't do it out there. So we get stipulations, and so we see these things that followed in Exodus are happening in our own time. But here's the question. Can we say that God has nothing to do with COVID-19? Can we say God has nothing to do with the weather? Can we say that God has nothing to do with the electric problems and the water problems? All of these things hindered us from worshiping. Can we say God has nothing to do with no food in the stores? No gasoline. Y'all may not have had it as bad here because it's small town fear, but Calallen, nothing. You hungry? Forget it. You're not eating. You need gasoline? There's none. It's gone. Can we sit back and go, oh, that's not God? Or do we have to legitimately go, was that God? Can we say God has nothing to do with the pharaohs all over the world, including those in America? So here we go, Exodus chapter 10. We'll start in verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Return to Pharaoh and make your demands again," which was what? Let my people go worship me. Remember, that's what we talked about all last week. Go make your demands again. I have made him and his officials stubborn, so I can display my miraculous signs among them. Pharaoh and his officials are stubborn because of who? God. God just said, I have made their hearts stubborn. They don't want to let you go. I'm going to make them not let you go. How many times have you heard the world say, if God would give me a sign, I'd listen? How many times have you said it? Oh, God, just give me a sign and I'll listen. Listen, this is the world. How many times do you think they watch us Christians and they think we're weird people, and we are. There's no doubt about it. But the world watches us and they go, you know what? Maybe they got something. And so the world will ask God, God, if you will give me a sign, I'll give you a chance. God, if you will show me yourself, make yourself real, I'll give you a chance. I'll go to church. The world says this on a daily basis. I promise you. It is rolling around in their heads. And you know they're lying through their teeth, right? You are just deciding, the world is just deciding, and we talked about this a little bit in the past plagues. They say, give me a sign, and God gave them a sign, right? And God gave them a sign, and God gave them a sign. And what did they do? They chose, once that sign was there, just give us one more night with the frogs. We do that too. God, what do you want me to do? Give me a sign and I'll do it. And he gives us the signs, and we go, wait a minute. Maybe not yet. Let me say this. When the world and Christ followers decide to let the sin go on, God, do you really want me to stop this? God, why is this plague happening? God, why is this plague happening? God, why is COVID-19 happening? And all the plagues in here, the lice, the locusts, the frogs. God, why is the things happening? And we ask God why, and we find out that is the sign we've been asking for the whole time. God, give me a sign, and he says, stop what you're doing, and brings the plagues. So when the world doesn't listen, when the Christians don't listen to the very sign he sent to us, then the effects and the repercussions of the sin starts to impact everyone. You see, the world has got so many things going on in it, and God is sending sign after sign after sign. Stop what you're doing. Stop going the direction you're going. Stop, stop, stop. But they keep saying, you know what? No, one more night with the frogs. No, we're not going to let go yet. No, we're not going to let go yet. And then you see the Christians follow in behind them and just start saying, you know what? There ain't nothing we can do about it. We can't stop them. And so those plagues now that are upon the world, because the world wouldn't stop what they're doing, and then the Christians sit back and say, oh, well, we can't stop them either. Then those plagues start spreading throughout all of us. And it'll start out with just the world feeling the effects of their sin, but when Christians become passive and don't stop it, then we start living with the frogs also. In other words, we start feeling the effects and living in the effects of the sins. And the signs that the world asked for that we are seeing today from God are gaining strength. Boy, have you just noticed? Just doesn't seem like it stops. But what about us as Christ followers? Do we ever say, oh God, if you would just give me a sign? When we do this, do we do any better than the world? You see through all of Exodus, of all the signs and all the plagues, that was Israel, that was Egypt, the world saying, give me a sign. And God said, okay, I'll give you a sign. And they didn't let go. Give me another sign. And God gave them a sign, and they didn't let go. So what happens when we as Christians say, give me a sign, God? Do we do any better? Or do we look at the things going on around us and say, oh, that sign is for them. That sign's for the world. You know, the COVID-19 is for the world, or AIDS is for the world, or whatever, COVID, or whatever judgment, or whatever crud that's coming on the world. We want to sit back and say, oh, that's for them, not us. That sign's for the world. Kind of like when we are listening to a sermon and we think, this is good stuff. I sure hope so-and-so are listening. They need it, right? We do the same thing. As Christians of the world, we sit back and we got signs all around us happening, and we're sitting there going, man, I hope the world's listening. And God's sitting there going, I'm talking to you too. We miss the message, we miss the sign. Do we pacify what is happening around us and say, that's for someone else? I wonder how often that we think when the things go on in our life is hard and rough, what's ever happening in your life, and you're just going, man, this is miserable. Whatever's going on in your life is so hard and so rough. And how often do we sit back and think, oh, that must be the world coming after me. That must be Satan coming after me. I wonder, did we miss verse 2? Look at this. When we think life is so rough, when we think life is so hard, and we sit back and we want to think, oh, God, Satan is just attacking me, Satan's attacking me, Satan's attacking me, things are too rough, God, and then we miss verse 2. Look at this. I've also done it so you can tell your children and grandchildren about how I made a mockery of the Egyptians and about the signs I displayed among them. And so you will know that I am the Lord. He said, I have made Pharaoh's heart hard so you can tell this story to the next and the next generation. The hard things we are going through, we can actually look at and go, God is teaching me, so I will tell this story to the next generation. Pharaoh's heart was hardened and kept them in bondage by God, so the Israelites would listen and learn the sign and tell the next generation. And the next generation, what? Verse 2. To tell them that I am the Lord. Listen, grandkids, listen, little nieces, nephews, listen, sons and daughters, let me tell you about how good God is. That is our job. And we get stories from the disasters we are going through. We get stories to tell the next generation from the COVID. We get stories to tell the next generation from the weather that shut our homes down and our churches down. These are stories that God is bringing on us. Kids, let me tell you about the time there was no food in the restaurants, no food in the grocery stores, and God walked with us and brought us out of it. Kids, let me tell you about the time that, man, we thought we was going back to horses because there was no gasoline. God brought us. These are the stories God is bringing in your life. We sit back and we wonder, what is God trying to show the earth? Well, let me tell you what, He's trying to show us too. So we have stories to tell our kids what God can do and that He is the Lord. That the very things holding us up, in fact, is God. And we get to share that amazing story. We not only can tell every generation, but we need to tell every generation that there is no Pharaoh king big enough to stand against our God. You see, these were the stories that they were passing on. Oh, this was happening with the Pharaoh, but he was not big enough for our God. That there are no other gods big enough to stop the power and the wrath of the one and only holy God of Israel. These are the stories we're supposed to share with our children. We go through times of not being able to move forward, to not go worship, just so that when we can see how great He is, and so that we will tell others how great He is. You know, the times that we ask God, do you see what I'm going through? I mean, He's asking. We all have. God, you see this, right? You know what I'm going through, right? We've all said it. His answer is, yes, I see. In fact, I have you there so you will see that I am the Lord. I have you there so you will see the mockery that I am making of those that are hurting you. And then you need to go tell the next generation what I did for you. So we look back into the story. So let's look at verses 3 through 6. Let's see if I can just read straight through without stopping. Verses 3 through 6 says, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to submit to me? Let my people go, so they can worship me. If you refuse, watch out, for tomorrow I will bring a swarm of locusts on your country. They will cover the land so that you won't be able to see the ground. They will devour what little is left of your crops after the hailstorm, including all the trees growing in the fields. They will overrun your palaces and the homes of your officials and all the houses in Egypt. Never in the history of Egypt have your ancestors seen a plague like this one. And with that, Moses turned and left Pharaoh. Moses and Aaron threatened the Pharaoh, if you don't listen to us and let us go, the next plague will be locusts. And they will eat up all your vegetation. But read verse 7. Pharaoh's officials now came to Pharaoh and appealed to him. How long will you let this man hold us hostage? Let the men go to worship the Lord their God. Don't you realize that Egypt lies in ruins? Oh yes, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. You see, just when we think that Satan is holding us back and enslaving us and hurting us, just when we think Satan's got COVID and man, we can't go to church, or we got no electricity and can't go to church, just when we think the world has got a hold of us and we can't get out and we can't serve and we can't do, God is fighting for us in such a way that even the world sees the signs. And they see the signs of God and they say to Pharaoh, hey, God, dude, do you not realize you're trying to keep these slaves, but we're the ones in hostage here. We're the ones that's being beat up here. You're trying to keep these slaves, but man, God has got us as hostages, and He's tearing us apart. Pharaoh's own officials, the world, are seeing the signs of God and going, Pharaoh, you got to let these people go. You see how God has turned the table? He can and will turn the table for you and I. Whatever is holding you back, whatever has got you down, just hold on. He's turning the table. Just when you think that the man Satan won't leave me alone and won't leave us alone, that's when God's going to turn the table on you. God's method starts making our own enemies say, you know what? They ain't worth keeping them here anymore. Pharaoh, you got to let them go. Did anyone see the buildup that's happening here? Does anyone remember what the promise was? What's the promise to Israel? I will set you free, and I have a promised land for you. A place of what? Milk and honey, right? Remember, God told Moses that they will let you go. Moses was at the burning bush, right? I want you to get the scene here. And God's telling Moses, go back, get the children of Israel, and bring them back here to worship me. And God tells Moses, they will let you go. Remember, the promise wasn't just they will let you go. The promise was, hey, Moses, go back, get the kid, go get Israel. They're going to let you go. Not only are they going to let you go, but they're going to send you back with what? All the riches. They're just going to unload everything on you and say, here, take this, here, take this, here, take this. But he didn't tell Moses. Remember, we talked about this. God may tell you the end result, but he ain't going to tell you how to get from A to B. He ain't going to tell you about all the plagues you got to go through to get there. Now, follow me on this. Can you imagine the buildup? Not only did they not let Moses go when he got there, but they kept him in slavery, and they made him go to worse, harder slavery. Watch the buildup here. Moses goes back. He says, let my people go. They say, oh, no, we ain't letting you go. In fact, we're going to make them work harder now. Now that you've convinced them they can leave, we're going to make them work harder. Here's the buildup. What would have happened if Moses would have went back and said, hey, Pharaoh, let my people go? And he said, sure, go on. I can imagine the first time around would have been, sure, you can go, but no, you're going to leave all your stuff. You know, this is our land, this is our stuff. You leave that, you just go. Here's the buildup. Here comes plague 1, plague 2, plague 3, plague 4. And now the officials are starting to say, wait a minute, Pharaoh. This is not fun. This is not good stuff. Now their minds are changing a little bit. So what would have happened if finally in plague 5 or 6 or wherever, Moses went to him and said, let us go. And he said, fine, go and take all your stuff. Right? See, before at the first one, if Pharaoh would have said, sure, you can go, he'd have said, go, but leave your stuff. But now about plague 5 or 6, he's probably going, yeah, if this would have happened, he'd have probably been, sure, get out of here, get your stuff and go, take it too. But the buildup, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plagues. How do you think now they're going to release them? Get them out of our land, and we will send them with all the stuff. We get them out of here. That's what God was doing. That's what God is doing in our lives. We sit back and we wonder, what is happening? Why are all this stuff hitting me? Why is all this stuff hitting me? And he all along is just making a buildup, getting a buildup to make the most miraculous exodus, literally, out of those things in your life that you can't imagine. The Israelites never dreamed in the world that they would have sat back and got to leave slavery and take all the riches with them. See, God was building this up for their sake. Why is this in my life? And he says, just hold on, because, man, the end result is going to be amazing. And then you get past one plague and get past COVID-19, and then what are they calling this? The winter, whatever, blizzard. I mean, a plague of blizzards. Oh, God, here we are again. And well, here's another one. And he says, hold on. Because when you get past all this, it's going to be bigger than you think. The blessing is going to be more than you can carry. It was literally more than they could take with them. Because they waited and they waited and they waited. Jeremiah 29:11, you don't have to turn there. Most of you have heard it. Some of you maybe have memorized. God, why are these things happening to me? Jeremiah 29:11. Because I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. God, why are these things coming down on us as Christians? They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. In those days when you pray, I will listen. If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. I will be found by you, says the Lord. I will end your captivity and restore your fortunes. Did you hear that? Not that. The message. Listen, I will end your captivity and restore your fortunes. Jeremiah 29:11 was hundreds of years later after what happened in Exodus, after what happened to Moses. And Jeremiah is basically telling us the story of Moses over again. He is saying, when we cry out, God, why are these things in my life? Why are the things happening? He says, I know the plans for you, and my plans are to get you out of what you're going through and give you so much more than you can even handle. You see, when we think that what is happening, why am I stuck here? Why am I in this mess? God is building up an amazing release for you. How long have you been in the torture and whatever it is you're going through? God is building up an amazing release for you. One that does not just say, well, let us go, but one that says, oh, you need to hear this story, child. Let me tell you about the story that God released me out of slavery one time. You know, we've all been in some kind of slavery, I can bet you. Whether it be alcohol or drugs or pornography or bad marriages or whatever, bad jobs. We've all got something in us. And I can imagine that if you will let God do his thing, when it's over with, you'll have a story to pass on from generation to generation. And it will change the lives of those kids that you tell. You need to hear this story of what God did in my life, what he took me out of. Because he didn't just let me go. He gave us so much more than we ever deserved. I kind of jumped ahead there, was talking about the release of Israel. But Moses and Israel are still in the middle of the buildup. The great release. Where we're reading right here, they're still right there in the middle. Maybe you are too. Maybe you haven't had that great release yet. That escape from slavery yet. Are you wondering when it's going to happen? Just try to remember, the longer God is making a mockery of your enemy, the bigger your reward is. Let's look back at the story. Let's read verses 8 through 11. So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. All right, he told them, go and worship the Lord your God, but who exactly will be going with you? Moses replied, we will all go, young and old, our sons and daughters, our flocks and herds. We must all join together in celebrating a festival to the Lord. Pharaoh retorted, the Lord will certainly need to be with you if I let you take your little ones. I can see through your evil plan. Never. Only the men may go and worship the Lord. Since that is what you requested, and he's saying, since you requested to take everybody, I'm only going to let you take the men. And Pharaoh threw them out of the palace. Again, Satan and the world will try their dangest to control the way we worship and serve. Like I said, the story with California. Oh, you can go back to church now, but don't worship. But we have to stand our ground and say, nope, we're going to do it his way, not yours. Look at verse 12. Then the Lord said to Moses, raise your hand over the land of Egypt to bring on the locust. Let them cover the land and devour every plant that survived the hailstorm. Now jump down to verse 16 and 17. Pharaoh quickly summoned Moses and Aaron. I have sinned against the Lord your God, and against you, he confessed. Forgive my sin just this once, and plead with the Lord your God to take away this death from me. Listen, Satan or the world cannot stand against your God. You may think you're getting beat up, but they got no chance against your God. Verse 20. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart again, so he refused to let the people go. You remember when we ask, why am I here, God? His answer is the build-up. I ain't done yet. I have plans for you, still to get even more than what they are willing to give up. You see, because in the beginning, they would have given them nothing, right? In the beginning, if they would have listened to Moses, they said, sure, go on, but leave all your stuff. In the middle of the 10 plagues, it would have been, yeah, you can go, but just take your stuff and that's all. But God wanted plagues to assure they left there with everything he wanted them to have. Remember, God may give us the end result plan, but he ain't telling us what it takes to get there. And we've got to trust him to get there. Because he knows some of us need to learn that ugly P word called patience. Right? A lot of us need to learn that P word, right? You see, he would do it, but I'm going to wait on him. Because if I wait on him, it's always bigger blessing. You know, I imagine some of the Jews escaped and ran off. Wouldn't you think that there would be some that escaped slavery? That said, okay, you know, we all watched Hogan Heroes, right? I mean, some of the Jews escaped, right? Some of them said, you're not going to hold me no more, I'm escaping. I imagine that happened. But did they get the blessing that the rest of them got? Were they living on the run in the wilderness? But those that had patience on God ended up with all the riches of Egypt and ended up in the promised land. That nasty word, patience, right? They get freedom. Those that ran off got freedom, but they didn't get the blessing. They didn't get the riches. So the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart again, and the plague of darkness fell over the land. Verse 24. See, we're getting close to the end. Hold on. Finally, Pharaoh called for Moses. Go and worship the Lord, he said, but leave your flocks and herds here. You may even take your little ones with you. See, he's still giving them stipulations. He's still giving them stipulations. Okay, you can worship God, but not this way. I'm telling you what, that is what Satan does to us all the time. I say it all the time, and you've heard me say it, I'll say it again, because we get up on Sunday mornings and we go, oh man, I got to go to church, or I don't feel like going to church, whatever, and Satan will always whisper in your ear, it's okay. Yeah, you need to go to church, but this Sunday, it's okay. Just miss this Sunday. He will do it. He'll do it every time. And that's what Pharaoh was doing. Okay, worship, but not fully. That's what that's what Satan will do to us. Verse 25 and 26. No, Moses said, you must provide us with animals for sacrifice and burnt offerings to the Lord our God. All our livestock must go with us, too. Not a hoof can be left behind. We must choose our sacrifices for the Lord, our God, from among these animals. And we won't know how we are how to worship the Lord until we get there. Did you notice what Moses was even doing? Moses was saying, yes, all of our stuff is going to go with us. All of our children's going to go with us, even all of our livestock. But God is sitting in the back going, oh, wait a minute. I've got even more for you. So God hardened his heart one last time. You see, Moses was ready to go with all of his stuff, but God was sitting back going, no, my blessing is even bigger than what you got. If you will hold out one more blessing, they're going to send you with so much stuff. See, Moses didn't even realize what God had planned for him. Listen, when we worship God, when we serve God, it has to be with everything we got. And that's what Moses is saying. No, we're going to worship God. We're going to take everything we got. It's all his. It can't be that we leave anything out. We can't say, I'll give you this and this, but not this, God. When we come to worship and serve God, we have to be willing to give up our everything if that is what he asks us for. And Moses was going prepared for that. That's what he told him. He said, no, we got to take everything because we don't even know what he's going to ask for, so we need to be prepared. And Moses was going prepared. Verse 27 through 29. Look, we're finishing. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart once more, and he would not let them go. Get out of here, Pharaoh shouted at Moses. I'm warning you, never come back to see me again. The day you see my face, you will die. Very well, Moses replied. I will never see your face again. I'm going to finish up right here. Band, if you want to go ahead and start coming up. I don't know if you know where we are in the 1 through 10 plagues. Does anybody know which one we're on right here? The darkness, which number that was? That was number 9. Yeah, it's number 9. So there's only one more plague left. One more blow, and Pharaoh's going to let them go. But was the final stand and lesson that Moses made, was it the thing that changed everything? Was it the thing that changed Pharaoh's mind? When he said to God and to the enemy, we are willing to give it all. I wonder if all that is holding up you being freed from whatever is holding you. Let me say that again. I wonder if all is what's holding you up from being freed from what's holding you. Did you catch it that time? Moses said it's going to take all we have to worship God, to serve God. And that thing is when God said, now, the next one, you're leaving. The next one, Pharaoh's going to let you go. It's when Moses said, our all. Is that what's holding us up from not being released from slavery? Are we not giving him all? When we finally tell God, it's my everything, you've got it all, will that release finally happen? God and Satan, I'm willing to give it all to God. I'm willing to give him my job, my career, my education. Abraham was willing to give up his family, sacrifice his own son. Are we willing to give it all to God to get out of the slavery that's got us entangled, whatever it is? whatever it's in your life that's got you so bound up, is God just looking for that all? Is God waiting on you to say, okay, it's all yours? Whatever you want, you got. Because that's what Moses finally did. My friends, can we trust if we give up our friends that we'll get better ones? Yeah, I'm sure he's not even paying attention. He won't. He's not going to care I say this. Now he's looking around. We had a little boy in the neighborhood that decided that was going to start being mean to him and being rough and beat him up and way too old to do what he's doing, older than them. But one of them, I won't say what his name is. I'll just give you his initials. It's Casey. But he was so willing to keep that friend because, it's a friend. Are we willing to not give up all, trusting God will give us better? Are we willing to give up the friends that we don't need in our life and trust God to give us better ones? What about our home? Whatever you have, are you willing yet to give it to God? Trusting Him to bring you even better in return? Moses said, we're going to take it all, and that's the only way I'm going to go worship, is if I am ready to give Him all. Are we ready to give God all? If we want out of our slavery, we need to. Moses made that stand, and God said, okay, that's it. One more thing, and you're out of there. Are you wanting out of whatever is tearing you up and bad enough that you're willing to give up all for God? Now remember, Moses didn't say I had to go give him all. We just needed to have everything ready for whatever he asked for. Are we ready to say, whatever you ask for is yours? Are you wanting out of whatever is tearing you up? Do you see he has been saying, let us go worship Him? Your version may be saying, let us go serve Him, depending on what version you have. One of those ways of worship or service is giving up your everything and letting Him decide what He wants and not you deciding it. Oh, God, you can have this and this and this, but not that. That's mine, and that's my little secret compartment, and nobody knows it's there, and so I'm going to pretend you don't know it's there either, God, and so I'm going to hold on to that one. Or are we going to let Him have it all? He wants all of you. He wants all of your heart. It's always been said that God comes to live inside your heart. And we let Him in, we invite Him in to come and live in our heart, but do we give Him every compartment? The band is going to sing in just a minute, and that will be your time to make a move to worship or to serve God. You can give Him a song with the band. If you know the words, sing with them. You can come give a money offering. We've got our basket down here. Or you can come give Him at the altar the gift of your life. And say, preacher, I want to give Jesus my heart. Whatever you want, Lord, I am yours. Are you willing to say that? So as the band plays, this will be your time for prayer, for meditation. If you need us to pray with you over something, or if you just need to do it privately. This is your time. You move with offering, whatever it is you need to do. This is your time. You take as the band sings.